Hello and welcome to AV Florida Gardening. We garden here in a Zone 9B. This is an area close to the Gulf, Central Florida. Very unique conditions. We have a lot of heat in the summer, poor soil conditions, very sandy soil, and a lot of humidity. So trying to work with those conditions, I built a bunch of raised beds on a budget, and I'd like to share with you how that is done. I am sitting on one of those set raised garden beds that I built. The measurement is 8 by 4, and I do that because number one, I can reach into the center of the bed without straining myself from each side. Just, consider how long your arm is. Maybe you have small children, you're gonna have to change that measurement a little bit. In addition, I use that measurement because the boards that I purchased are 8 feet. That fits perfectly into my car to bring them home, and half of that is exactly 4 feet, so I have one board for each side without wasting any material. I'm going to also share with you what soil I buy, and I'm going to do that also because sometimes my compost that I make myself, as you can see right there, is not enough, and you might run out yourself too. And Florida soil is so easy draining, very sandy, doesn't hold a lot of nutrition, that you do need to add, which is the whole reason why you work with raised beds here in Florida, because you can add the compost that you need, because the natural soil sometimes does not sustain farming. And which is another reason why I buy quite wide boards, so that way they're taller and I can fit a lot of soil into it. If you have questions or comments, please feel free to add them. Like and subscribe if you like the content I create, and now let me take you to the store.
For about $19, I purchased 3 boards that are 2-inch thick, 10-inch wide, and 8 feet long. Watch out, try to avoid lumber with those knots and splits in the wood. These boards are pressure treated, and I will show you later why I go that route. So I really like the Jungle Growth raised bed mix. It's about $4.30 per cubic foot, and it is made from really good compost made from plant material from the forest. This mix has a good amount of nitrogen, which is what gives plants the nice green color. As you can see on the ingredient list, 70 to 80% is composted pine bark. Then there's some peat moss, and this is all really good for water retention. Now came the hard part, and that was getting the stuff home and unloading it. The first order of business is to clean up this old bed. Now, in the old bed, I used regular lumber, not pressure treated, and it took only about 3 years for it to completely rot and fall apart. So this is the reason why I go with pressure treated. I know that if you want to grow organic, that might not be the best option for you. You can obviously use other materials. You can use cedar. Cedar is a very hard wood, and I do have one bed which has cedar, and it is still in good shape. You can also use other materials like center blocks, for example, to build out your raised beds. But yeah, this one is done, and I'm going to rip it out. I pulled all the weeds. As I'm pulling this out, you can see that in the past I used stakes in the corners and in the middle of the sides of the boards. I thought that would give it more stability, but over time I found that it actually doesn't really help. You see, this is completely rotten. Now with my cedar, that does not happen. However, cedar is a whole lot more expensive, so you might need to consider that. This is coming apart so much more easy than I thought it would. Now that this is done, I will put all the boards into the fire pit. I could theoretically put it into my compost pile, but we do want to light a fire here soon for New Year's. For this project, I used a 3x9 exterior screws. Now this is the hard part. Honestly, this is where a second set of hands comes in very handy. And when you try to arrange the boards and make them stay up before you screw the parts together. Now what I'm doing here now may not apply to your situation. I am starting with an area that is uneven, so I am right now moving soil away to give the boards an even surface. This part is actually quite important because you do need these boards to line up properly when you start putting them together. So I think at this point it's pretty even, and we can go ahead and see if the two ends will match up. Yep, and they do. So this is a really good starting point. Now the regular drill did not work, but this impact drill should do the job. Since I'm doing this by myself, I am just going to tap the screws in at the top and in the bottom first, and then align the boards. So I'm driving the first screw in at the top, but I'm giving it a little bit of room so that I can now maneuver the board and line it up perfectly before I drive the second screw into the board. And that's it. And that's really all that there's to it. So as you see, it's not hard at all. And I am just going to go around and do the same thing on all the other 3 corners. What I am doing though is I alternate the corners where I stagger the wood, so I don't put the 2 4-feet boards on the inside of the long boards. I go around and I use a different overlay in a way on each corner. Let me show you a close-up. See how the short board is on the outside of that 8-foot board? On the other end, it's the exact opposite. It's on the inside of that 8-foot board. Now, when you do that and you go around, you will give the whole box a lot more stability. Now I have to again even out the ground again. This part is a little bit harder. There are some roots that I have to get around and pull out. I'm going to speed up the video and give you the impression that this is an easy job that can be done within seconds. Some landscape fabric that is under the walkway, and I'm going to pull that under the board to prevent the weeds to show up right on the edge where they always like to come up. Alright, time to align the last board and finish this guy up. As you can see, I do have the screws all tapped in and ready to go. Again, this is a trick that I learned. When you do things on your own, this really works well. I'm aligning the corner at the top first. Screw the first screw into the board. Once the first screw is in, I still have a little bit of movement that I can use in order to align the bottom corner, and then I go in and put the last screw in. I thought I might want to show you what kind of tricks I come up with in order to replace that second set of hands. So here I just used my shovel to lift up the corner. That's it. Now we just have to go ahead and add the soil. Now this bed did have some decent soil already in it, but over time soil does compact and you do need to add top layers. I generally don't till the soil in. I'd rather leave the old soil intact because that gives the biome that's in the old soil, the fungi, the bacteria, the worms, you don't want to disturb those. So I really just top dress. Alright, my friends, and this is it. And we are finished. You see, it's not expensive and everybody can do this, even if you're by yourself. This bed is now ready for some plants, and I do have a couple of seedlings that are looking for a new home. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. If you want to see more content, subscribe.